My name's Chris Phillip.
My name is Paul Anderson.
My name is Mark Boyd.
Hello, my name is Derek Combs and I listen to the Blue Army podcast.
My name is Matty Robson and you're listening to the Blue Army podcast.
So, basically, what I've got is a little bit of news at the start, similar to last time. A little bit about England and the League Nations. I'll ask you about how, if you've been watching any England, how you feel like they've been getting on. A couple of fan questions this time, but to be fair to them, they're a little bit more. Not about football necessarily, they're just a little bit more about you, I guess, like sort of like about your tastes and things like that. They're not necessarily about your career. And then obviously we'll jump back into the second half of the career kind of thing. So if you'll allow me, I'll introduce you again. Right, Maras, how's it going? And welcome back to the Blue Army podcast. This is episode 71, and I am absolutely buzzing to be joined by a man you may have met before here on the podcast, an absolute legend, a player that scooped the Player of the Year awards right here at Brunton Park. I'm talking about Super Matty Robson. Welcome back to the podcast, Matty. How are you doing?
I am absolutely fantastically delighted to be here again, and thank you again for the invite.
Mate, like I just sort of like teased you in there, I've got a little bit of news to cover, and it's always really nice to have you here, have any ex-pro here on the podcast, because you can give quite a unique perspective on things that not all of us can give. Carlisle, in the last couple of weeks, have made a couple of signings, finally. There's been a little bit more nerves happening around the fans, and we're not acting quickly in the transfer market. Now, in the rumblings towards pre-season, just before you go into training, do you expect to see a flurry of signings before training starts, or does the majority of signings really start after training starts?
You can look at it two ways, Liam. I think if any club, I guess even Carlisle, could have conducted the business before pre-season starts, have that squad together, I think that would be the perfect scenario. Don't get me wrong, but I've been part of it, and I'm sure it still happens, where business is conducted right the way up until day dot, first game of the season. I'm sure they would prefer to have everyone in place, but the football market doesn't work that way. People are on holidays, uncontactable. It's not too dissimilar from the job I'm doing now, recruitment, where they potentially have a lot of irons in the fire and are considering which option is best. It's not necessarily the biggest club. It's not necessarily sort of the salary. It's where they're going to sort of fit. So yeah, I've been part of both ways, where we've had, a lot of the business has taken place before pre-season was due to start, but equally I've been part of it where business is still being done, quite heavy into pre-season, and it I guess the guys who are already signed up, they wouldn't worry about that too much. It's something that is expected. Again, as they would throughout the season, they just get on with it, and they can't affect what happens behind the scenes. But yeah, it's one of those. I guess it's upon availability and upon a decision making, the process will just continue right the way through. I guess till the window closes, really.
I mean, like what we've got the advantage of is having a really experienced manager in a transfer market that can be, you can get a lot of really smart action done towards the tail end of the transfer market. If you're in the lower league, certain players might feel a little bit of a pinch and they want to just sort of get signed up if they haven't been attached to a club or maybe been on trial somewhere and those trials haven't worked out. So what basically I'm trying to do here, Matt, is ease a couple of Carlisle United fans' worries about maybe not having so many signings to talk about yet. But one of the signings we do have to talk about is a wonder all the way from the Czech Republic. He's 6'8" and he's a goalkeeper, mate. He's huge. I can see your reaction there. I wanted to ask you, mate. I've heard it on a different podcast, the Peter Crouch podcast. Goalkeepers are a different breed of people. Now, is that true, mate? Our goalkeeper's a little bit weird. Is that true?
I mean, you took the word right out of my mouth. Weird. Like honestly, the goalkeepers union, as it used to be, they're just a unique brand. They're part of their own little dressing room, really. Although they're not, they just have their own little clique going on. They just, mosey about doing. Sometimes you look at keepers and you think, wouldn't it be great to be a goalkeeper? Then when you get into the harsh months of November and February and they come in absolutely, pardon my French, but piss wet through with mud, and you think, nah. But yeah, they're a unique brand. But yeah, I did notice that. It did make me laugh because I saw the picture that was put onto social media. And at first I thought, is Greg stood in a hole? Because the guy absolutely towered above him. I mean, he looks some size. Don't get me wrong, and obviously having an imposing figure like that is quite intimidating.
Thomas Hoyley, the man's name is, and all the best to him. And I hope he gets off to a great start pre-season at Brunton Park. Another person that we signed, mate, is a lad called Owen Moxley. Now, he's quite interesting. He sparked a debate here on the podcast a couple of episodes ago between me and a couple of my usual co-hosts, Wills and Liam Denwood, that I'll shout out here. Basically, mate, what the debate started around was the level once you get past the Scottish Premier League, when you're in Scottish Division 1, Division 2, what is that adjacent to in the English pyramids? And when we're taking players from there, what should we kind of be expecting in terms of quality? See, just to give you a little bit of an insight, mate, we kind of settled on League 2 in Scotland. That's the lowest sort of a semi-pro kind of league in Scotland, being adjacent to the sort of Northern Premier, South Premier kind of standards. I don't know if you'd agree with that, or because you yourself obviously kind of played at that standard up until quite recently.
And even then, I mean, obviously when I did sort of spells in the Northern League and whatever, my first season in there was a bit of a shell shock, and that might come as a surprise. It was kind of like, whoa, it was fast, it was furious, and it took me a good while to adapt. But also in that sort of first couple of seasons, I played with a guy called Lewis Wing, who went on to sign for Middlesbrough and has been in Sheffield Wednesday. So there is still good talent in that league, and the league is competitive. Would it be the same as Scottish League 2? I'd maybe be doing that a little bit disservice because I've not played at that level, but I mean I don't think it'd be too far away. It's possibly better structured, better organised. Don't get me wrong, that's probably where the difference and the quality may differ. It probably is more organised and the process is better. But I guess it wouldn't be too much of a jump. Let's say if you were pulling a player out of the Northern Premier League to go into League 2. But it's like anything, there's always going to be that that one player within any team who's got that ability to step up. So fingers crossed it goes well for the lad. I'm sure we'll get the full backing of the Carlisle support to sort of spur him on and sort of be a success.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, he's a Carlisle lads as well. I mean, you yourself, like you said, playing at that Northern Premier sort of level, you must have had a couple of kids in teams that you were in that you thought should probably get called up to higher levels, or maybe not, mate. What is that standard like? Is there lots of kids and there's just lots of like lads as well that should probably be playing at a higher level but aren't?
Yeah, there is. Like I said, the one that I mentioned there, Lewis Wing, who was when I first started playing with him. He was very slight. He was sort of a little bit bigger than me, but you could just see he possessed that little bit of quality. His technique was fantastic. He was probably kind of, wasn't slow, but he was kind of he could have done with a yard. But his performances week in week out, I think he scored like 41 goals or something from midfield, which is at any level is a fantastic return. And I think we played a friendly against Middlesbrough just through connections that the club had, and they seen him play, and they saw he had ability, and they took a chance on him. And at the time, he was working a full-time job. He was getting paid, through the correct channels at the level he was playing. But his employer said, "Look, go and do it. Go and experience it. I think they signed him on a 2-year deal, or initially it was a year with an option of an extension. So go and do it. We'll keep your job open. If it doesn't work, we can come back. The rest is history. He played sort of, went there for 6 months, and then signed a 4-year deal. He's then gone on to sort of, forge a career. For Wednesday, end of the big club, and I think he finished the end of the last season at Wickham. But yeah, there are a number of lads at that level who, could step up to your levels of, your Gatesheads, your teams in kind of the Conference Norths and potentially League Twos. The problem comes, some of the clubs at that level. See, you're all paid by the club through obviously you get tax and stuff as well, but they're also getting paid at the full-time job. So the problem comes is when a club is potentially interested, but financially wise, it doesn't make sense for them to drop out and go and have a go at the pro. So for me, if I was at that age, it was something I dreamed of doing, it would be a no-brainer. But I think a lot of them haven't grown up on sort of the expectations that they're going to get picked up. They're not going to sort of make it anywhere, so they're not really open to it. Where for me, I encourage those to say, look, go and do it. It's an opportunity that you've wanted. But there are a number of lads at sort of the lower league level, and I dare say there's some who play for Carlisle City and on a Saturday in the Northern League that are potentially being let go by another club, just sort of enjoying playing, but have still got that appetite to try and make it as a pro, but they've just not had the breaks. And it's up and down the UK. It's just one of them. You got to be lucky. But yeah, absolutely. There's a number of lads that I've played with who I thought, there's something about you, whether they, as fast as lightning, because any football club is interested with anyone with pace, or whether it's that one person who's so comfortable and composed on a ball. There's an abundance of them in the lower leagues. It really is.
Yeah. I mean that's interesting that you may have bore witness to a couple of lads considering turning down pro deals because they don't maybe make as much and they just enjoy playing at that kind of level, and maybe they just enjoy the full-time job and the security and living in the hometown, that kind of vibe as well. Because there are a number of talented lads at Carlisle City, and I'm looking forward to seeing a number of them play next year. It's an interesting league next year with the likes of Penrith and other Cumbrian teams that are going to be in the same league. So plenty of really good fixtures to look forward to at Guildford Park. Some fixtures I haven't really looked forward to, mate, is this fake league, the Nations League. I'm not a big fan of this. I feel like it's one of those money-spinning ideas that is supposed to make us forget that we're supposed to be watching World Cup football right now, and it just all seems a bit fake, a bit of a facade. The competition doesn't really mean much, and England's performances haven't been that great. I mean, that's my 2 cents on the issue. I mean, who has anyone been impressing you maybe from the squad? It's a different squad, isn't it? You could say he's shaking things up a little bit, I guess. Something you can say. I
think it's a squad that maybe Gareth Southgate's looking for. He's probably looking ahead to the World Cup. Don't get me wrong, and he's looking for, I guess, potentials who can slot into that 23-man squad. But yeah. This Nations League, I'm not fully set on it. I think of what I've seen, and it might just be an end of season thing. It's been a massive long season. It just seems a little bit flat. Obviously, I haven't taken in any of the other sort of home nation games, but I have watched sort of a couple of the England ones. I'm thinking, that it's a bit flat. Can you sort of excuse tiredness? Yeah, to an extent. But you think, still pulling on that shirt, you want to win, you want to perform, but I don't even know whether the players are fully vibing it. I'm not sure. I mean, there was a few weeks ago, there was some game going on at Wembley, Argentina versus Italy in some cup competition. I was like, what the hell is that? It is a money spinning thing, some of these tournaments. One thing I kind of am against is a lot of these posts and things brandished around on social media and in the papers about, is it Southgate's time to go? I'm thinking, come on, give your head a wobble. You know, I'm not for that. You know,
I don't think so.
No, you know, I think what he has done over the past 4 years and turning, I guess, not just the team around, but I think the nation around into, you know, getting involved, getting right back behind the national squad has been fantastic. You know, every team goes through a blip. Christ, I think I went through one every season at Carlisle. You know, but you know, I wasn't. You know, I'm not going to stand up after 4 games and think, get rid of that manager. You know, we all go through them, and whether they are jaded, whether they have had a lot of games, there's a lot of pressure. You know, they go through it. I guarantee they'll come out. But for those calling for his head, I'm thinking, come on. You know, I think it's those fans that I think, yeah, there's got to be a bit more understanding behind actually what has gone on and what is still possible with that team. And I mean, it's one of those. I mean, they are playing tonight as well. And whether I go and take it in or not against Hungary is a different matter. But yeah, it just seems a little bit flat and not something I've been massively behind, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, it's not been an impressive tournament since day dot. I mean, obviously, you get a little bit excited when you get to a final the first time around, but yeah, I mean, it just doesn't do anything for us, mate. They just feel like friendlies, and it looks like other nations feel the same way as well, because the games don't really come across very competitive, really, to the bigger nations. There's more upsets than anywhere else. Your accumulators are screwed if you're betting on the nations. Absolutely screwed if you're betting on the nations.
Oh yeah, it's one of them we just want to avoid.
Right, before I get to dive into asking you more questions, mate, I've been lucky enough to get a couple of emails of a couple of listeners, and they're going to ask you a couple of questions, and let's dive into it, mate. The first one is from a lad called Paul Graham. He says, after talking about sandwich shops and pizza at Italian restaurants on the last podcast, I'd like to know what your favourite pizza topping is, for one, and for two, what your go-to meal deal is.
My favourite pizza topping. I mean, God, it could open up a can of worms here. Don't get me wrong, I ain't going to say pineapple because that deserves no place on a pizza.
I mean, not in your top 5, no.
No, it's not even on the list. I see. I like a bit of sort of the spicy stuff. I like, you know, anything that's going to sort of kick my taste buds into gear and whatever. So something like a bolognese, jalapenos, all that type of stuff is probably got to be up there. You know, something that not something sort of mediocre like a ham and mushroom. I like something that's going to sort of be interesting to eat. So anything spicy.
Fair dues, like a bit extra chili flakes, that kind of thing.
Bit of chili oil, especially when you go out. Got any chili oil? Bring that over.
Nice.
I like sort of a bit of temperature in my food. Go to meal deal. That is. Gosh. So probably, I would talk just a normal bog standard forecourt garage meal deal.
Like basically, for example, like today I got a quite disappointing meal deal. I went to the Spa and it cost me $3.99 for a cheese savoury sandwich, a Fanta fruit twist, and a packet of prawn cocktail crisps. And I wouldn't give it a high rating, mate. I really wouldn't.
Yeah,
but if you could have your favourite meal deal, like along those lines, what we're looking at.
This is going to sound excessive, but I do like a chicken triple. So chicken and stuff, and that might compromise the chicken and bacon. But then also chicken, mayonnaise, and sweet corn. Get something out in there.
Ooh, sweet corn.
I'd possibly go for a kind of might sound a little bit highbrow here, kind of San Pellegrino. A bit of limonata, San Pellegrino. Very nice and refreshing. And a packet of salt and vinegar squares. Again, controversial, not for everyone. Yeah.
Popular. They are popular because that's why they're back in it. That's why they're back.
And now you can get them in a grab bag for those convenience stores that want to push the boat out. You can get £1 and they're the size of your head.
Your lips by the end of it, man. You must be absolutely top, man.
Or on the night you're waking up and
that's it, man. Yeah,
feeling your tongue from your mouth.
I like them, but that'd be a lot of them, mate. That'd be a lot of them.
The discos are slightly worse because you always leave that little powder in the bottom, and if you get it, it turns your head inside out. Very strong.
Oh man, I mean, there you go, Paul, mate. There you go. You got your answer. Stuart Dowling said you had a lot of numbers when you were at Carlisle. Did you have a favourite number?
You're going to wrap my brains here. I think I came in as number 10, didn't I?
Yeah.
I started at number 10, but I think knowing sort of where I'd become, I thought I was set on number 3. I think that was my number.
Was there anyone that inspires a number 3 for you? Is there a reason number 3 you gravitate towards it? Is it because of another player?
No, I mean, obviously, being a Sunderland supporter, in the time where I used to go and watch, so you think of the likes of Mickey Gray, who was, again, obviously a marauding fullback, which kind of I turned into, someone who's just bombing up and down. But I never thought I want to be a number 3, like Mickey Gray. A number's a number. At the end of the day, it doesn't make you play better. It doesn't make you any less sort of important than everyone else. But yeah, I think number 3 sat well with me.
I mean, number 10 was a bit random. I think, did you get that off Cal Hawley? Like, who did you even get the number 10 off?
Number 10? Who had just left? I can't think who it possibly could have been. Yeah? Or, no, Danny hadn't left. The year I joined hadn't. No. Yeah, he'd have been. It's gone down to Swansea by that time.
Nah.
It might have been. Yeah, it could have been.
Random.
Yeah,
Just a random number for a left side. I mean, like, from where you were playing on the pitch, number 10 was just a bit of a random number, especially at that time of the game when, number 10s, number 9s, number 11, the numbers kind of meant a little bit more back in, a couple of years ago. Now it seems to be like a bit of sentiment here, a bit more of that there. Like, it seems to be more about branding and stuff like that. So weird numbers seem to mean a lot more to certain players these days.
No, I mean, like I say, if I was to pick one, I thought, a number 3 would have been my sort of the number that I'd kind of thought, that suited me.
Yeah. Michael Hetherington, and I'm noticing, by the way, like, this is the second question now. They're sneaking in 2 questions in one, so I do apologise for this, mate. Michael Hetherington's wanting to know, what was the last gig that you went to? And also, what is the CD that's in your glove compartment? That's always been in your glove compartment.
So the last gig I went to was at I don't even know what it's called anymore, Utility Arena in Newcastle. And it was I think it was some Planet Rock gig, but it was Europe, Foreigner and Whitesnake.
All right, like a full-on medley of classics. Okay.
Yeah, so it was the 3 bands. And I mean, feel free to push this out. We missed Europe because of the chew on trying to get in queues at Newcastle. So we missed Europe just as we were going through the door. It's the final, and I thought it's pointless even going in to get a seat. They're finishing their set, go to the bar.
And they could open and close with it, you don't know.
Well, they could. So yeah, we that was the last gig I went to. The CD that's in my group box. Christ, I'm down with the kids here. I use Spotify.
Your playlists built in now, have you? Is that what you do? You make your own playlists and that?
I mean, obviously the girlfriend and my son, they go through, Dad, can I use your Spotify? And they'll pick music. But he starts liking music. I'm thinking, these YouTube kids. I'm like, no, I can't listen to that. But what was the last album I listened to? It might have been kind of very random because I'm quite eclectic in terms of music. But I think it was something like, might have been Eminem.
Right.
A bit of the old school Eminem. Like, it's that, and obviously a bit of Dr. Dre mixing and all that. I thought, that's what I'm going to at the moment. But normal everyday stuff, Planet Rock on the radio. Yeah. But it's quite varied. But yeah, I think the last place was Eminem. I think if I'm right.
All right, fair dues. Yeah. I mean, like, we've all got one stuffed away somewhere. Like, we've all got a Marshall Mathers or something stuffed away somewhere, mate. Dan Mulrain wants to know, what teams do you support outside of football? Sort of like, what's your NBA team? What's your rugby team? And that kind of thing.
So
if you do follow any other sports.
So obviously my best friend spent a lot of years over in America doing uni, and I visited him a couple of times. And he was based in Fort Lauderdale and Boca Raton in Florida. So obviously I spent a couple of summers over there, and we took in sort of sport and bars and TV, and I started to get into it when he first went over. So I started following the NFL and picked up the Miami Dolphins. I wasn't going to be a cheesehead and a glory supporter, back the underdog. So I started following the Dolphins, also Miami Heat. Not so much into the basketball type stuff, but closer to home, I follow Saints in the rugby league. Enjoy watching rugby league. Sort of been to a few games that are closer to home when they have been playing Castleford and what have you. Been to a number of Magic weekends, so it's something I like to watch. I think I mentioned it in the previous podcast that it's the pace, it's the intensity. I thought, yeah, I like a bit of this, a bit of me. So yeah, I follow St Helens.
Yeah, I mean, just for me, mate. I mean, I don't expect you to support Carlisle United just because you played for them. You played for other teams as well. I mean, who is? I think I've seen it on your social media, so I can probably guess who your team is. But who's your football team? Like, who do you like to go and see?
So yeah, it is Sunderland. I used to go before I started playing, and so I had the pleasure of going down there in the playoff final and actually seeing us win at Wembley. Fantastic atmosphere. Great occasion. So yeah, I do follow. But that said, I also keep obviously a very close eye on both Carlisle and Hartlepool. They are two fixtures that I look for every week. Without fail, it'd be wrong if I didn't, really.
Scott Davis wants to know, and I'm not sure if we were recording when we spoke about this, that you alluded to this, but what are you keeping busy with nowadays? I mean, I know I'm going to ask you a little bit later on about Shildon, and you've only recently stopped playing with Shildon, but what are you keeping busy with nowadays?
I mean, obviously, I do work full time, and I love what I do. Again, it's a lot of speaking to people and getting to know people on a personal level, which is something I enjoy doing. But obviously, at the same time, trying to fill jobs. But I still play on a Sunday. I still try to play on a Sunday, and kind of, although I'm still playing sort of 99% of the roles, I'm kind of also taking a little step back, getting involved in kind of the assistant side of things, trying to develop sort of the guys who are going to be there beyond me. Because I'm not going to be playing for the next few years if I can get another year or two out, but also see these local lads who are just playing on a Sunday for fun. But if I can help them in any way at all to sort of become, I guess, better footballers. We know obviously it's recreational. They're going to have a drink on a weekend. That's fine, but you can see it. They still want to win. They still want to perform, and if I can in any way help sort of develop, and not just sort of on a skill level, but more of a I guess on a personal level, getting them to know that they are good enough and all that type of stuff, then that's something I'm getting involved in. I'm not looking to do any sort of football badges, but I'm doing it because I want to help out some local lads, so.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was a sort of direction that you were maybe going to go. We might see you in a proper tracksuit at some point, maybe see you push on in that way. But I mean, because I did obviously read about you sort of going into a player coach role while you were at Shildon, and we'll move on to talk about that kind of stuff in just a little bit. But the last question that I've got for you is from a lad just called Dean. He's left the name Dean. He says, "Where do you keep your footy stuff, and what stuff have you kept?" I wouldn't tell people where you keep it, mate. I wouldn't. I'll just tell people where you've kept it, what you've kept. Sorry.
So obviously, a lot of family have obviously followed my career, and sort of I've passed shirts off that I've had or that I've sort of came into possession of. But yeah, I keep quite a lot of sort of the shirts and sort of trophies that I've sort of came to have. So I keep a lot of that. My wider family have kept a shed load of paper cuttings and stuff like that. So it's nice reading. Obviously, my grandfather passed away a couple of months ago, and as they were clearing out the house, because my grandma's in a home, they were clearing out the house, and they came across kind of a folder, and I didn't know he was doing this, but he'd kept it all from school level right the way through, obviously Hartlepool into Carlisle, paper clippings and all that type of stuff. And I was going around my auntie's just to drop something off. She says, "Oh, I've got this for you." I was like, "Oh, what is it?" And I looked at it, I was like, "Bloody hell." I didn't even know he'd done it. And at the time, I had my little one in the car. I said, "Ethan, have a look at that." And even he was like, "Dad, is this you?" And, it made me smile, that actually I was in possession of something that my grandfather kept. So that's now kind of tucked away nicely in the little one's cupboard for anything he wants to look at. So, because he didn't get to see me play, so it's nice for him to look at and think, actually, my dad did achieve something, and he can look back fondly on it.
Oh man, that's really cool. What I will say, if anyone is interested in getting the hands on any of Matty Robson's memorabilia, there is a shirt in Warwick Bazaar on Warwick Road right now for £40. It's a match-worn shirt. It's not signed, but it is a match-worn shirt with Matty Robson number 10. So if you're interested, in fact, any of Carlisle United's retro shirts, get yourself down to Warwick Road. They've got a little bit of a selection going. There you go, mate. There's a little free plug for you over at Warwick Bazaar. We'll jump on to actually talking about you, mate, and we'll sort of like plough back in where we left off, which was you signing at Carlisle United. And in your first season, my friend, you had a bit of competition for your place in the shape of probably the most famous man in the league. I'm talking about the Irish international Ian Hart, the left-sided left back. I mean, at that point of your career, was the idea of you being a left winger, or were you always going to be slotting back into that left back position? Like, what was going on there in terms of, was that a competition between you and Ian Hart? What was your relationship like with Ian Hart?
We had a fantastic relationship, obviously. First off, to actually play alongside him, I was like, blooming hell, this guy's been to UEFA Champions League semi-final, and Irish international. It was like, Christ on a bike. So first of all, I best get my ass in the gear, because this guy's going to be absolutely ripping me a new one. But obviously coming in as obviously number 10, I know numbers don't mean much, but I think initially when I came in to sort of provide an attacking option, when Greg took over, there was kind of no direct competition. But I think as time went on, and there was still no competition, I thought there was, we also had Peter Murphy and obviously Ian Hart. So we had a good balance down the left hand side. You had a left side centre half, you had a left back and a left winger. So obviously when sort of Ian went into the centre half role and I fell back into the left back slot, there was still no competition, but it was one of them where each individual could do a multitude of jobs. So it was nice competition for, and I guess a headache for Graham and for Greg to have. And it's very rare that you can get 3 or 4 left-siders to pick and choose from. So it was good, like you said, to have that sort of experience and composure sort of behind you and beside you was reassuring to know, and kind of give me initially the freedom to know that I'm just gonna bomb him. I've got this guy behind us. It'll be absolutely fine. So there was no competition, but I think with anything, it's healthy competition, and I think the team we had, there was never any sort of, I guess, bitterness. There was never any egos to say I'm going to be playing, I want to be playing. It was all good competition, and I think it was showcased on some of the performance that it worked well, not just on the left hand side but the right hand side as well.
I mean, is there? I mean, we've just spoken about the goalkeepers union a little bit later on. Is there a left-footed players union? I mean, you guys are a rare breed.
Rare breed, but the better breed. Kind of like the top end pedigrees. I think it's always said, and even the right footers may admit this, the way the left footers strike the ball is a joy to watch.
It looks cooler.
And to be honest, watching Ian Hart strike a ball, there's not many left footers that are better.
Poetry in motion.
It was like silk, so smooth. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's a left-footed union, but yeah, we're a unique breed.
At the end of your first season with Carlisle United, you guys finished mid-table, which wasn't a bad result by any means. Carlisle were needing to stabilise a little bit at the time after Fred Story, the owner, sort of moving on and the finances becoming quite a different story in quite a quick amount of time. And Greg Abbott was given the difficult task of replacing the likes of Ian Hart and James Chester, who were there on loan. While you were there at Carlisle United after your first season, how do you feel Greg Abbott handled the recruitment, and what seemed to be the priorities? Was it always the ability, or was it the personality of a player?
I think it's a mixture of both, but I think without having the correct attitude and the right personality, you're never going to make it. You can have all the skill in the world, but if you don't marry that up with having the correct attitude, it's never going to work. And I think above all else, trying to get that balance to slot into the dressing room is a challenge for anyone. But I think during my time there, and obviously Greg's time there, we had a really good dressing room. Even the guys who came in and run, I think you've got to be sort of extremely careful with them. Yes, not every one of them worked out, but yeah, I guess I didn't really discuss too much of this with him. He might be wanting to tell you on a podcast himself, but I think he probably is totally go against anything I'm saying, because he was a bit like that with me, in a humorous way. But I think I think picking attitude over skill, I know it sounds a bit odd, would have been something he would have considered, because I think everyone as a collective who want to go the right way, want to do the right things, will become a better team. You might have that one player who, is a luxury player, but he might have an absolute rotten attitude, and it's going to stand out. And not that it ever did, but could alienate himself from the rest of the lads in the dressing room. So I think the recruitment he did after that, that first year, bringing in a mix of both experience and, I guess, younger talent, bleeding into some of the youth team guys as well, I think was really well done.
I mean, like one of the key examples of somebody that is a balance between really good at football and maybe not the best approach every single game in terms of consistency was somebody that Greg Abbott brought in after that first campaign. I'm talking about Franz Zoko, the Ivorian, a man that could score goals that only a magician could imagine, but also the next game just sort of not turn up. I mean, is there any insight that you can give us on Francois Zoko? I mean, like, I've heard from other people that he wasn't a bad trainer by any means, and it was just a sort of game by game thing.
Yeah, I'd say any player has good games, bad games. He can have a run of, go through that purple patch. Equally, they can go through a period of playing where it doesn't work out. But the difference with Francois was he fit in well with the dressing room. He was prepared to work. He trained, every day. He didn't sort of miss out training. Again, like we all do in training, we don't all, train to the standards that we want to every day. There might be something misfiring, and whether you are carrying a little knock, but that's not to say he didn't turn up. I mean, obviously, he quickly adapted to the climate, and I've never seen a man train in scuba gear before, but that it was the thing is with Francois, he fit in really well, and he did put a shift in for the team. He gave us a lot. He wasn't one that wouldn't work when on team. Yes, he would try things, and which you don't mind. You want people to express themselves, but he wouldn't then just stop working. He would graft. So yeah, he was a pleasure to play with, Francois. He certainly added a lot of flair to the team, and also give that crowd a little bit of a lift. You had that feeling similar to Ben Marshall, I guess, in a sense, where he picked up the ball and he thought, "Oh, something's going to happen here." Even if it didn't, anytime he got the ball, it was like, something's going to happen here. It'd be that same feeling. Did he get frustrated with some of his performance? Of course he did. He wanted to be the best. He wanted to score every time he had the ball. He wanted to make something happen. Kind of a bit like, obviously not at that level. He's like Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Eric Cantona, they would get pissed off when it didn't go well. It's because they had that passion for the game. But yeah, he certainly wasn't one of these luxury players who he came in and we had to carry. No, it wasn't the case. He came in and fit in really well with the dressing room environment.
Yeah, what's the scuba gear story?
I'm just saying, every day was cold. I was taking the mick. He always used to come out fully wrapped up, hat on, gloves on, schnood on.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Francois under these layers somewhere. He was. Always complaining about the cold. Yeah.
I mean, even with the additions of Francois Zoko's magic, the following season was also a mid-table season. But to be fair, this is a really important time in Carlisle United's history, because you see teams at the level that we were at that time being consistent Premier League performers. I'm talking about teams like Southampton, Leeds and Brighton, Brentford. These are teams that were regularly featuring at this level and were receiving the right kind of investment to push on to somewhere where Carlisle United fans can now only dream of possibly reaching. Is that something you guys could see at the time? Was the buzz from those clubs? Do you know what I mean? Was there any sort of thing about that? Any news, or is that all sort of like hit you by surprise?
No, I think we could only deal with what was in front of us. It was, again, you go back to, you can't control what's happening behind the scenes in investment and stuff. We were there and we were paid to do a job. Whether we got the investment or whether we didn't. Each week we went out to try and give our everything to try and climb further league. But like you rightly say, there was, during that 2-3 year period of my first years, there was some sort of big clubs in there, and then clubs who had aspirations, like your Brentford, who obviously I guess had a greater catchment area, who were more appealing to investors, I guess, where they kind of felt they were going to get a bit more return. I mean, you played against it. It was always in the press and stuff like you're reading. So, but did it affect us? Nah. At the end of the day, we're paid to do a job. We weren't there to think, oh Christ, these are getting investment. These are going to be brilliant. It wasn't the case. I think, you look at Leeds and Southampton. They spent a number of years at that level because they are where they wanted. Well, they were there on merit. It's whether they were getting investment or not. We all still had a job to do, and I guess all these things you can't control. But certainly was an experience. Turning up to a place like Ellen Road and St Mary's and playing in sort of the stadia like that and thinking, Christ, these have been at the Premier League. But that, I guess, again, I look back at that time and think, Christ, I was very, very lucky. So yeah.
I mean, the following season, Carlisle United and yourself, the rest of the team, managed to gain some kind of success, and I'm obviously talking about the English Football League trophy victory. Before we go on to sort of talk about the final, the sort of players that you were surrounded by at the time were the likes of Paul Thirlwell, Frank Simek, Lubomir Mikulik, and they're quite different names than what you started with, and these are mixed with long-termers still, like Peter Murphy and Graham Kavanagh. You've now become established as a bit of a long-term player at the club by this season. Had the dynamic changed at all? Obviously, management had changed over that little period of time. Had any kind of anything changed for you?
No, I don't think the dynamic has changed, but it's like anything really. What's the old saying? Rome wasn't built overnight, and it's a gradual thing. Obviously, players had come and gone, and we utilised the loan system well, but we also had that a core group who had been around the dressing room for a couple of years, who provided that bit of stability, and I guess a little bit of know-how and a bit of, I guess, experience to the guys who were sort of coming through, maybe he's had a year on the loan place. So I don't think the dynamic changed, but I think it's just football. You've got to continue to roll with the punches, and you accept that there's always going to be changes. There's going to be people coming, people going. But yeah, I guess the build up, and I guess we were kind of really riding sort of a crest of a wave. We felt good. We'd learned from the experiences of the year before, where we got an absolute doing. It was the occasion was a bit overwhelming. We'd gone into it trying to prepare as best as we can. I think we turned up with fully suited and booted, and turned down there a couple of days before the game, where kind of give us that experience. It was a lesson learned of, right, okay, we've got beat, but it wasn't a fully sort of frank reassessment of stuff. We had no intention, I guess, of or expectation that we were going to get back there next year, but it was kind of like, right, okay, and it was more of the next season, what we're going to learn. We've just experienced something that should have been a massive high, and there was a sense of, oh God, we've let ourselves down. I mean, we were completely hands down beaten. By
Good
the better
team though, that
they
Southampton team.
had a
Like,
fantastic
they were a really
team.
good team.
Yeah, we got beaten, but then you look at the league games the next year. I can't remember. Did we beat them at home 3-2 possibly? And I think we drew with them down at St Mary's away. So it wasn't a case of Christ, these are head and shoulders above us. It was just still better on the day. But obviously, once we started getting to the further rounds, of the latter rounds of the following year's cup, it was kind of like, okay, there's another good sense of, we could achieve something here, and we got the final and changed the approach, and we're a lot more relaxed. I think turned down there, I think maybe a day or so beforehand, turned up the game in tracksuits, had that bit more relaxed feel. Let's be comfortable, let's go into it, and we learned from it. Yes, the crowd and the kind of the atmosphere levels weren't the same as the previous year, but you're still playing at Wembley. There's still a massive atmosphere. There's still a sense of expectation that you've got there now. Here's your opportunity. To play there once is an absolute dream. To play there twice is an absolute luxury. And I think there was that little sense of feeling we're not going to let ourselves down again. It was a close game, but yeah, the feeling of winning it, and I think deserving to win was rewarded from the work that we've put in there to get there again.
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple of questions there, but you've done a really good job of sort of like covering what I had in the bag, mate. All I've really want to cover. I mean, there's 40,000 Carlisle United fans there at the final, but before you got to the final, there was a bit of a hell-raising Northern playoff final over 2 legs. Where, I mean, you beat Huddersfield 4-0, and then you lost against them 3-0, and you make everyone absolutely shit themselves, mate. I mean, what the hell was the story going on there, mate? What was going on there? I need to ask you, what were you playing at?
I mean, yeah, you think 4-0 up first leg, you think, oh, we'll just, we'll, not close to such, but yeah, we should have enough of a cushion or buffer to get through. And you think, oh, you've scored the 1 goal. You think, nah, we're all right. And I think, was it 1-0 at half time? I think they called one back, and I was like, yeah, we're still comfortable. We no panic stations. They got the second one. It's like, because I don't think we were offering a great deal going forward, and I think it was obviously their crowd right behind them, especially when they got the second. I was like, oh shit. Then they got the third, and I was like, oh my god. And I can't remember. We think we cleared one off the line at one point. I think it was Alan. What the hell do you call the big striker that played for them?
Oh,
Big curtain. Yeah, lad. I think he had it.
Alexander.
No, was it Alan? What's he called?
Adam Reed.
What the hell was he called?
Weston.
No.
I'm reading off some of the names of the team.
He was. It'd have been kind of the end, not towards it. I guess the twilight of his career. He was a big, bashing centre forward. I think he had a header late on, and I can't remember if it hit the post or we cleared off the line. It was panic station. It was like we got through. We didn't have to go to extra time or anything like that. So it was, we got through it, and but we didn't expect it to go that way. I mean, we didn't even expect to win 4-0 in the first leg, but we did.
It was a bit of a nightmare. It was a bit of a nightmare, mate. Yeah.
We got through it,
Yeah, exactly. You got through it, you got to the final, and obviously you got to see Peter Murphy sort of become even more of a Carlisle United legend. He pops up and scores important goals for Carlisle. I mean, where were you on the pitch? What was your view of that swiping foot, that powerful strike into the corner?
Where was I in the pitch? I might have been, because I think we came from did it come from a corner? Yeah, the goal. I think the goal came from a corner, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'd have been at the halfway line, sort of preventing any counter attack. But I mean, obviously, I had a direct line to Murph, and I was like, to that, to anyone, whether it was me or anyone else, to see a goal go in at Wembley for a team that you're playing for, it's like an experience like no other. It was absolutely amazing. Like you say, rightly so. Cemented his place in Carlisle folklore as being an absolute legend. But to score a Wembley goal and to secure a trophy was absolutely fantastic.
I mean, you yourself in this game became a bit of a Carlisle legend, and your career with Carlisle went on to have a little bit more of a highlight. We've spoken about your Player of the Year awards and things around there. But before that, mate, in the final, in the 77th minute, you got yourself a yellow card. What are your memories of that?
Did I? I can't recall. I must have been tired.
Okay.
I didn't get many. But yeah, I think, so being or not, I have watched the final back, and I was proud of not only sort of myself being there, but I think of what we accomplished, and whatever it took to win the game, and some may see it as downright cheating, but we're in this game to win. If it meant I guess sacrificing the yellow card for the sake of someone going in through and goal, then we do these things. It's kind of a natural instinct. It's nothing I guess intentional, nothing to do any harm to anyone, but it's like we're here to win, and I think anyone in that position would have taken the yellow sort of to sort of make sure that we kept the opposition out. But yeah, no, I look back at that, I think it's and it probably wasn't, but it felt like I think the best game that any of us had ever had, because it took a lot to go back there again. What we put in there once we realised, we were going through the rounds to get there, and it took a lot of energy, and we got over the line 1-0, and I think a lot of us would look back on that game as probably been the best game we've ever had. You say in terms of technical and how it looked, it probably wasn't, but I think the feeling after the game was that was absolutely amazing, and the jubilation and stuff was up there, and you look back at it and think what a fantastic achievement it was.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the last trophy Carlisle United won, the last sort of professional trophy Carlisle United won. Matt, I am conscious of the time now, and I don't want to sort of like eat into too much of your personal time. I do actually have about sort of like 5 questions left, and I think you've run out of beer, haven't you? Are you sure?
No,
are you all right?
Carry on. It's fine.
Are you all right? Do you want to get a beer? Are you all right?
No, I'm absolutely fine.
All right. Well, thank very much, man. I really appreciate that, man. Yeah, I mean, what I did have for you, but I was conscious of the time, and if you're all right to indulge me, was a little bit of a quiz to do with the final. I was wondering if you, because I'm always curious about how much information footballers can retain, and especially being on big days of the career, I was wondering if you could perhaps name the starting 11 that you were obviously a part of for that final. I don't think I've ever heard a footballer be able to recount a full 11 from a final, and I think that'd be quite impressive. So can you remember who was alongside you on that fateful day within the starting 11?
Christ on a bike, what a question that is. So I believe Adam Collin was in goal.
Yes.
Frank Simek right back.
Oh yeah.
Lubo,
Mikalik.
Murph. Me.
That's it.
We had Ben Marshall.
Marshall did start the game.
We had Paul Thirlwell.
Yes, Paul. Yeah.
Adam Clayton. Did he? No, he was not.
Oh.
That was the year before.
Oh, well
Adam
saved. Well saved.
That was the year before. Who was sitting next to James Barrett?
Uh-huh.
Left side was did Tom Taiwo play?
He did.
Was it?
He did.
Was it? So I think we might have played a 3.
Uh-huh.
Ben Marshall,
Uh-huh.
Francois,
Uh-huh.
and Craig Curran.
Oh, he's done it. He's absolutely rinsed it.
Yeah.
Well played, mate.
And
well
then,
played.
And Ben Marshall came off injured. I think he absolutely smashed his ankle in that game. Came off on a way. Did he end up getting a stretch around?
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Absolute tragedy, man. Absolute tragedy for Ben Marshall. Only got 23 minutes at Wembley. Went off crying, the commentators said. But I didn't see any tears, Ben. I didn't see any tears. I'm sure Ben's listening, obviously being a good friend of yours, mate. The next question is, mate, what minute was the goal scored from Peter Murphy?
That is a good question. It was definitely the first half.
It was.
A couple of miles out here, but I'm going to say something like 17 or 27 minutes or something like that.
Oh, it was 12, mate. 12. It's really early.
I was going to say 17.
Really early.
17. It's like, yeah, it was early. I remember it being quite early.
Makes it all the more impressive, man, that you guys really dug in there deep. It was a really spirited performance, mate. And like I said, it was the last time we won a professional trophy, which really does cement all of you guys in Carlisle United fans' folklore. And something else that cements you in Carlisle United fans' folklore is obviously winning the Carlisle United Player of the Season award. And then you went on to sign a 2-year deal with the club. I mean, you must have been riding high at that point. What were those contract negotiations like? Was it just as simple as, I'm enjoying my time here, I'm absolutely doing great, obviously, if I'm winning awards, I'll sign whatever you put in front of me? Or was there other teams interested because you were doing well? You know, there very well might have been other teams interested.
Yeah, I mean, throughout, obviously, my time in Carlisle, I loved it, and the contract stuff was never ever an issue. You know, I loved my time there. I'd like to think of myself as a loyal person to give back, I guess, everything that's been given to me. You know, I wasn't sort of, obviously, you know, don't get me wrong, obviously, to potentially be even higher would have been a dream. But, you know, I love my time there. And obviously when I was coming to the end, it was always like, am I going to get one? And, you know, thankfully I'd signed a couple of extra deals, obviously from initially signing, and it was never sort of in question, because you know, I love my time, I love the people, I loved sort of who I was playing for. So yeah, it was quite straightforward. I do think through sort of during I was kind of in the middle of contract, sort of tied down, I do believe that there may have been interest, and I think, you know, there was potential irons in the fire, but I think in terms of what the valuation was against what clubs wanted to pay, it didn't work out. Now, it wasn't something that, you know, I was upset didn't happen, because it was one of those, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, you know, I am still playing football. It was never sort of an intention to leave, because I was always given everything I got, well, everything I could for Carlisle and the shirt I was wearing. And that's where I've always been. I've never been one to think I'm doing anything for a move. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Ultimately, if I play and I, you know, get injured, and at least I did doing something that I love doing, I accepted that as kind of always been who I am. So yeah, it was always easy. No, I think there was always a worry. Oh shit, am I going to get offered a new deal? Thankfully, I did a couple of times, but yeah, it was straightforward. Really was straightforward.
I mean, after the Player of the Season award, I mean, things didn't go that well for the club, and Carlisle United got relegated to League Two, and there was a bit of a transition in terms of management. Obviously, Graham Kavanagh kind of came and went very quickly. And what was that like? It wasn't the first time in your career that you'd have a player that you were playing with week in, week out, all of a sudden become your manager. Was that completely different experience this time around? Was Graham Kavanagh just a completely different kind of person?
No, you know, Cav, from playing with him to sort of him going into a management role was always the same. Again, he was a winner. You know, he was tough as nails. He demanded the best, not only out of himself but out of everyone else. You know, he came from good stock. He had a fantastic career, and again, I guess not too dissimilar to what I'm trying to do now. He was trying to sort of develop people alongside him to sort of, to encourage them to be better. And he kind of, didn't sort of change overnight from getting the manager role from when he was a player, because he still expected the best out of everyone. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, which these things happen. But yeah, I think the passion and the energy and the commitment that he put into training and trying to sort of make things better, was never in question. See performances on the field, it didn't work, and that's as much on us as it is on manager. But ultimately, it's obviously the manager's head that falls, and it was tough to see him go. I spent a lot of time with Cav and travelled the country with both him and Ian and Paul Thirlwell, and I've nothing but sort of respect and time for every one of them for, I guess, the support that they gave me. And it was tough to see Cav go. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting sort of time of at Carlisle United, because on paper a lot of moves sort of look right. Bringing Graham Kavanagh in as manager with that sort of wealth of experience and the level of football that he played, and obviously the club being in the position that it was in, everything seemed to be right, but nothing really seemed to get going. And unfortunately, Kavanagh was moved on, and I mean, this is another thing that mystifies a couple of Carlisle United fans about yourself, Matty Robson. You went from such a great position, being the Carlisle United Player of the Year awards, and then I believe there was a couple of injuries, maybe that kind of like never got fully healed, and it was kind of an in and out of the team kind of thing for a while. And then, well, how did this loan to Gateshead? This is the only loan period of your entire career. How did this come about in the end?
So obviously Keith Curl came in, and you're right. Obviously, I was having back problems, and I was having a couple of epidurals a year and prolotherapy just to try and make sure that I was sort of able to play. Ultimately, what I understood after sort of going out on loan, I kind of stood back at the end of the season and thought, I can't do this anymore. But the loan came about. Obviously, Keith came in and sort of wanted to sort of have an impact, and wanted to have fresh ideas, and wanted to change a few things. And it was a case of, I think he'd kind of brought in players and wanted players to play, which is fine. He wanted to push in the younger guys, your Brad Potts, Carl Dempsey's absolutely tremendous. I was a big fan of theirs. They were fantastic lads. But a lot of the kind of the guys who've been around a bit of a longer period, like myself and Danny Livesey and Paul Thurwell and various others, were kind of not so much cast aside, but kind of like pushed out, kind of things with view of bringing a fresh approach to the team, which is fine. We continued to train and play, and well, when we were playing as best we could and get involved, and we were professionals at the end of the day. But managers have a new approach. But I wanted to play, and whether that was a Carlisle being sort of, I didn't want to sit there and sort of earn my money or sit on the bench for the end of the season. I wanted to play, because I didn't want to kid anyone. I didn't want to think I'm just there for him. He's happy to make his money. I wanted to play. That's always been me. I wanted to play, and in a sense, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. They came in and said, "Look, we want you on loan." I wanted to play at Carlisle. Of course, I did. I wanted to be part of the team, but I kind of had a sense that it wasn't going to be the case. And no matter what I tried or what I did, I think the vision and what he had in mind didn't involve me. So ultimately, I thought I'm going to have to make a decision here that is going to be beneficial for me. Gateshead, where they trained, was not a stone's throw, but 5-minute drive from my house. They were a club where I spoke to the guys there that had sort of ambition, and they had a number of experienced players there, and a good group behind them. I thought, I just want to play. I want to play football. Went there and I played a couple of games and felt something wasn't right. I didn't have the power, I didn't have the burst that I had, and I thought something's not right here. I kept getting little pains. It turned out I needed a double hernia after 3 games, kind of finished my season. And after that season, I took a frank assessment of where I was, what state my body was in. And I thought it was time to call it a day. I didn't want to, again, playing the game for me was something I'd wanted to do, and don't get me wrong, I would have continued to play. But when I was honest with myself and thought, I've dropped a level. I'm not as sharp as I once was. My body is telling me that I'm no longer capable of doing that day in, day out, and ultimately I wasn't good enough. So I made the decision myself rather than anyone do it. That's me done for professional football. And do I miss it? Yeah, of course I do. But was it the right decision? Absolutely. And I'd rather walk away being physically able to than being, kind of a guy who's struggling to mobilise and have that mobility for the sake of just continuing the career. So yeah, it kind of came to an end quite quickly from my time at Carlisle. But I knew it was the right thing to do. I had a fantastic sort of period of both Hartlepool and Carlisle, and I look back on that fondly. But it came to an end quite quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what caught like a lot of Carlisle United fans sort of off guard, and there was obviously like a lot of comments made after the first episode went out, like wondering where you kind of like ended up towards the second end of your career, and that's obviously what we're covering now, because like I said, you were on a little bit of a pedestal after winning Player of the Year in a lot of the fans' eyes, and then obviously in such a short period of time to have then, on paper, you've dropped down to a certain level of football where, in Carlisle United fans' opinion, you're too good for. Like we think you're a bit too, but we don't know the ins and outs, and we don't know, how you felt about the injury, and we don't know any of that kind of stuff. So, mate, I really appreciate you kind of clearing that kind of stuff up. But I mean, when it comes to signing for Shildon, I mean, and why Shildon? Is it a close to a hometown thing? Is it a relationship thing? Is it what's the contact?
So it was more of a relationship thing. The manager at the time was he'd always been a close family friend. Like going back to when I was a kid, we had family holidays, and obviously when I kind of fully assessed what I wanted to do, and he was like, "Oh, come and sign." I was like, "All right." And then randomly, I had another club in the Northern League who wanted to sign us as well, and they'd offered us a brand new kitchen to sign for them, like randomly.
I knew this kind of stuff went on,
and I was like, yeah. So I went to sign for Shildon, and I say that again. There was a bunch of lads there who had sort of had sort of a bit of exposure to a professional league club setting. Maybe it's not made a career out of it, but it's certainly been through youth setups, and I guess it had pro contracts, but not fully sort of made a start and had a career out of it. So they had a good bunch of lads there, the likes of Paul Connor, who played for Swansea and various other Rochdale, and so they had a bunch of lads there who were capable of playing football. But like I said, the first season was certainly a bit of a shell shock, playing on some difficult fields, and it was an interesting period. And like I say, I'm not sort of wrong what I'm saying. It was a bit of a shell shock. I had a bit of a shocker first season. Like, who the friggin' hell is this guy? He's played 300 league games, and he's come in. He looks like an absolute shit show. And the
ball's like bouncing all over.
I was like, bloody hell! I had my Puma stand finders on, like constantly kicking the ball out of the ground. I was like, what the hell? So it did. It took a bit of adapting. But from then on, obviously, it went well. Obviously, at that level, we won leagues, we won trophies, and we had a really good thing going. And it was that's how it all came about, really.
Man, you had a really long career with Shildon, and it wasn't only up until last season where you've
I think it was sort of during think it was during lockdown. Obviously, then we were allowed to play again. There was, I think, Tow Lord. I was still contracted with Shildon. Tow Lord put, I think, 7 days or something in, and I think I dropped out of Shildon. I kind of said I'd walk away, but it still held my registration. If that made sense. It put Tow Lord put 7 days in, as you do, and then I'll sign a player in 7 days. And they were saying, "Oh, can you come and help us out?" So I went across. It wasn't an intention to go anywhere else, but Shildon, I said I'd packed in, but they said, "Oh, we only need you for a month." That month's turned into about 3. And then Shildon wanted me to come back because they had FA games, and so they put 7 days in again. I'm like, Christ on the mic. But and then again, I thought, I kind of need to get out. I was always looking for an out, and although I have dabbled recently, it's never been something that's been a continued or prolonged spell of a full season. It was more of just, look, I'll help out where I can, and I'm happy with that now. I've had a fantastic time, and I still enjoy my football now, even now on a Sunday league, for a local village team where I grew up and know a lot of the lads and played with it at school and secondary school level. I get a lot of enjoyment out of playing that now, and there's not as much pressure to turn up week in, week out. And, it's right that I'm there now. But yeah, it's been absolutely fascinating.
Mate, I can only imagine like how difficult it is to sort of like slowly start putting the boots away and focusing on a different career. In fact, I can't imagine how difficult it is. It's probably about as difficult as me wanting to say goodbye to you, mate. But I can't take up any more of your time. Do you like my little segue? Did you like it?
I did. I like that.
I can't take up any more of your time, mate. I really do appreciate everything you've done, not just in the first episode, but this episode. I mean, all the best to you doing this recruitment, mate. I really appreciate you talking to not just me, but obviously the listeners, and I appreciate the listeners sending in the questions, mate. So just thank you so much, mate, for just
anytime. Honestly,
your time.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll be never against sort of doing it again. But no, I've enjoyed it, Liam. Thank you very much for sort of giving us a message all those months ago, trying to sort this out. But no, I've really enjoyed it, and I look back fondly of everything that I've done and everything I guess I've achieved in my career. I can look back and think, yep, I can look back and smile, and now I can pass it on to my son and pass that. Hopefully one day he may pull on a jersey again. But thank you very much.
Oh, mate, I mean, just like I said, mate, really appreciate your time, really appreciate the stories that you've given us. And I mean, there's nothing left for us really to do on the podcast, mate, apart from say goodbye to the listeners. So it's goodbye from me, Skelly, bye-bye, and it's goodbye from Mr. Matty Robson.
Goodbye, everyone.
This has been episode 71 of the Blue Army podcast. It's been an absolute wonderful journey. Really appreciate your time. One more time, Mr. Matty Robson. Say goodbye. Bye for now.